Afternoon, YouTube. Today I am covering another beautiful piece done by Dinesh D'Souza, so all credit to him for the source material. Um, I'll just make my comments after the clip has been made. Thank you.
One of the key issues on which this election turns is who is responsible for the deep division in American politics. Now, the left says it's Trump. He's responsible. Look at all his intemperate rhetoric. But I think that Trump is not the cause of the division. It caused him. He's a response to it. Biden and the left are sowing the seeds of division. Now, Biden denies this. He insists that he is a force of unity and that he will bring America together.
And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states.
But this
There's another thing I want to add. It's not just Biden. Obama is really the one that created this division in the first place. If you look at some of Dinesh's early material, especially the movie he released after he was, I guess, served his time in prison, and he made the movie to, I think it was Hillary's America. But anyway, the Obama Nation film was really, really wonderful in explaining how Obama weakened America and also created that interior division so that the people would be so confused about, well, it's essentially laying the groundwork for the problems that we have now. So I don't want to interrupt. Let's continue.
More is the deeper cause of these divisions. And I would put it this way. When Reagan ran for president in 1980, he said he was running on 5 principles, 5 themes.
If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price.
Which I think he took to be the unifying themes of American politics and American life. Number 1, the idea of the individual. Number 2, the idea of the family. Number 3, the idea of the church and the right to worship. Number 4, the idea of the local community. Decisions are best made at the local level. And 5, the idea of the country, patriotism, the national anthem, the American flag, and what those things stand for. Now, it just takes a moment of reflection to realize that the left today is against all 5. They're against the individual. They think that the idea of individual initiative, climbing up the ladder, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, this is somehow an illusion. This is something that we've got to get rid of. The individual should be at the mercy of the state. Number 2, the family. They don't like the nuclear family. It's too patriarchal. If you look at Hollywood movies, it's the parents are always the dumb ones. The patriarchal father is always the true idiot and fool. And a lot of the attempts to redefine the family. Number 3, they don't like the church. They're willing to impose restrictions on church worship that they won't impose on, say, Black Lives Matter protests. They want to pull down crosses, and they want to knock over Jesus monuments and the monuments to the Catholic saint who built the missions in California and so on. Number 4, they don't like the idea of local self-government. They want to move things to the centralized state. They demonize local rights and states' rights, even though states' rights allows people in different places to do different things and try different types of experiments and see which one works out better. And finally, they don't like the country. They don't like the national anthem. They don't like the flag. In some ways, it's a little illusory when we say the American flag, because we don't have an American flag anymore. It's our flag, but it's not their flag. We talk about the national anthem. We don't have a national anthem. It's our anthem, but it's not their anthem. They don't want to sing it. And we can't make them. So these ideas have long-term implications because the divisions, I think, run far deeper than Trump or Biden. But in the short term, I think we need to decide which side of this divide are we on. If we are for the individual, the family, the church, the local community, and the country, then there's really only one choice on the ballot in November.
So there's a lot of things that go into that clip that is just remarkable and well summarized. So as you know, Dinesh is a product of the Reagan years, and you could say that he was a conservative right out of the gate. He came from very humble means, I guess you could say, but not really. I think his family was relatively well off, but his decision to try to forge his own destiny and come to America, that's what, in his own words, he said that America is the only place where he could be in control of his own destiny, the author. So there's a few things there that I want to point out as Canadian. We have a radical left government here in Canada that rules essentially like the first communist state. So I would say that the failure in education to keep the action of communists and the action, well, actually, let's put it like that: the action of true communist controlled states, and the underlying reasons of why those states became a tyranny and resulted in the deaths of more than 100 million people. Why Chairman Mao came to power, exactly why the identity politics game is dangerous, why it can only lead to its full potential as a tyranny of bloodshed. What happened in Soviet Russia, why did it collapse really, but how did it come into being in the first place? Our failure in education to educate the children, the millennials, let's say, but longer than that, I'd say it's been a problem since the 1950s, from what I've learned. And it's not only pathetic, but it's when you look at how many Marxist professors there are, even if they don't claim to be Marxist, but underlying Marxists. In my education system, I've met a lot of them. Marxist nihilists, they're anti-Christian people. That's another thing in education that's failed us, is that they do encourage the so-called, let's say, how would they put it? Critical theory, I suppose you would call it, that they teach us the critical theory, critical thinking, but it's really an indoctrinated approach to a secularized nihilistic way of thinking. Everything is you have to regard it with a certain, how would I say, the fact that facts don't matter. You can interpret everything in a variety of ways, and no interpretation is more important than the other. It basically creates confusion in the mind of a young forming student, so that they'll be suspicious of everything, and they won't be searching for the truth at the pinnacle anymore. It's something they'll be, whatever seems to be favorable for, it's difficult to explain, but you can say they're ideologically indoctrinated with leftist presuppositions. So if it's like climate change, it's all those things that Dinesh spoke of. Against the nuclear family, definitely they're against the heterosexual nuclear family. And even more so that they degenerate into intersectionality. So here we have acted out what would happen to the U.S. if Biden was elected. Because the radical leftists, again, they don't want the country to succeed. They want the country to degenerate and dissolve itself. Trudeau would always say that Canada has no national identity. I would say he's anti-patriotic. Definitely, you seen there in that clip with Reagan about how they show respect to the fallen veterans. Trudeau doesn't care about the veterans that have sacrificed life, limb, psychological sacrifice, damage done in the wars. You know, he doesn't care about any of that. So there is something deeply that calls for respect for veterans when you really think about what they sacrifice and what they go through. I remember Brock Blazchuk that he lost his leg, I think. There's severe damage. I think he might have hit a landmine or an IUD, an improvised detonation device, something like that, on the side of the road. And he suffered massive physical damage to his body. And so he came to Trudeau at a town hall meeting and said he was prepared to die. I was prepared to die. Why are you turning your backs on us? And Trudeau's response was, we don't have enough money right now. And he was giving away $10.5 million to a known terrorist at the same time, or very, very close instances. They had just settled in court. So everything that Dinesh spoke of that will come to pass for the Americans has already happened here in Canada. So note what I say. Dinesh already concisely explained very nicely, because all of those things happened to Canada. Like, we're so fragmented right now that our country, well, at least my province, is threatening separation. So the dissolution of Confederation, you could say. We're at that point now, because really there's no other way for us to protect our interests. And if we continue being part of Confederation, if we're patient, then it seems that Trudeau will essentially destroy us, our industry, our way of life, and if without the means to work to expand our industry, we're dead in the water. He's actually saying we need to figure out, they're going to pay for us to revolutionize so that we can create new industry under their climate change regime. And the thing that makes me really appreciate Trump is that Trump understands a simple truth. Oil and gas are not going to go anywhere for a long time. We probably have 50 to 75 years of that at least. And in developing nations, they'll always have the need for petroleum products to help lift them out of poverty, let's say. And so the export, at least of those commodities, is very important. So, but Trudeau is like, well, no, we have to be at zero emissions. We're not going to support that industry at all. You know, really, Dinesh is foreshadowing the events that would take place. I hope that all Americans remember very concisely what Obama did to them. And it doesn't matter if you're black or Hispanic or white. It doesn't matter which race you come from, Asian American. I don't care. I remember when they were showing on the news the lineups for people getting with food stamps to get some food. I remember houses being so cheap in the United States, massive properties, acreages that they you can see how cheap they are, how undervalued. and you could get a massive piece of property for I think $150,000 that would previously cost probably 4 or even 5 times that amount normally, or at least to get the same thing here, you'd have to fork out a mil, maybe $1.5 million or $1.2 million or something like that. It was incredible, the devaluation of American property, and you know, it was, I can say, being there, experiencing it, that I can truly attest to the weakness that was created under the Obama administration. America was as weak as it was ever in history. There's no point at which it was weaker, or in like how it was embarrassed internationally. There is an old story I remember that Obama was visiting, I think it was China, and there's some kind of pomp and circumstance that's supposed to be laid out for any foreign presidents or prime ministers that come to visit. So they roll out a red carpet for you, and they make preparations for the pomp and circumstance that you need to receive for your background, let's say. And so, of course, China being our enemy essentially, but not really exposing it in the full force of the media, because I don't know how many people actually knew about this, but Air Force One was a little bit late, and what they did is that they forced Obama, they basically withdrew the red carpet, and they forced Obama to exit the aircraft, and then they sent their own agents aboard Air Force One to investigate Air Force One everything, and Obama was forced to go in the back door. It was incredible disrespect, and for an American president. And the reason they did that to us is to show us that we were nothing to China. And I never heard this like in I hope people remember it, because it's true. But I would never have heard this if my father hadn't caught it and was paying attention to the Vietnamese news, I think. But I don't exactly know where his source was, but I saw it there. And the disrespect, man, it was incredible. They basically they put him at the level of like a servant boy or something like that. And then oh, he was incredible. So, but that's besides the point. The Reagan era, to which I am a massive fan of the whole Reagan was the greatest president before Trump, and after, let's say, Abraham Lincoln. They're one of my favorites, all of my favorites, because he was able to create that sense of patriotism. It's, and also he has this way, like how he explained things, even in that video. But if you see Reagan speak, it's like you really get inspired by that man. And I'd say that Trump creates that same inspiration. America was hopeless before he came in, and he knew it. He ran for president because of the tragedy, how poor his nation became, but poor not in the sense only of finance, but poor in hopelessness in spirit. You could see that the American pride completely diminished. It was just incredible. America stands for nothing. And Trump, I would say Trump ran almost out of sheer desperation to get his country to come back. Trump is 74 now, but he's old enough that he's seen America transform and go down and down and down after decades of Democrat nonsense. And I'm sure he's intimately aware of every scandal, every instance, and when the Democrats would take advantage of power and enrich themselves and essentially rape the nation and steal from the nation. And it's so, but Obama was arguably the climax of that. It was the worst, that America's interests would be sabotaged, and I'm sure that many of you who have seen my channel, or maybe you can come across this video, felt the same, and I'm sure you do, because if you lived through it, you'd remember it. It was just a time of tragedy, much like what Canada is going through now. We groan and ache under the bad leadership of this fake prime minister that we have here. And I call him fake because he's not our prime minister. He's a puppet or a ventriloquist dummy for somebody to hold on the strings, or control what comes out of his mouth. He's not his own person. So Trump, you should judge him by the strength of his enemies, and his enemies are everywhere, massive enemies. All the media, with the exception of maybe Fox or, a few journalists here and there that might support him. It's like his enemies are you need to judge how strong that man is. He really is incredible how he's able to keep it at bay. It's really, it's something to say that the strength and character of a man to hold himself even under massive. Jordan Peterson is the same. It's like a hyper provocative environment created by the media to get them to misstep or say something out of place in sort of like a trapping process. And you see them, essentially, they don't talk around it, they tell the truth, and then they explain that the question is essentially nonsense. And so it's leading, and it's designed as a trap. So, but judge them by the strength of their enemies, because you can see that no ordinary person could handle that kind of pressure every day, all day, for as long as he's been president. The kind of stress, psychological stress and damage it must do to a person to suffer that kind of thing and to keep going. Trump, if Trump was a less of a character, less of a man, he wouldn't run again. You know what I mean? Like he'd say, well, is it really worth it? Is it so worth it, that stress? He does it out of the love for his country. I can't think of a higher motivation than that. And I know that's what it is, because that's what he keeps talking about. He keeps pushing. I want to make America great. I want to keep America great. We still have work to do. We still have things that we need to bring back the economy, and so on and so on. We heard him say it 1,000,000 times. But really, he's trying to repeat that message so that it gets in the hearts of Americans. That's my motivation. I want to bring you up and keep you there. I don't want you to look at what Biden has done. And he, in my opinion, he actually did a poor job of painting Obama and Biden as the real villains, Clinton, Pelosi. And I think he doesn't do it because, it's better to show the public what I've done rather than point out the failures of my adversaries, maybe. I don't know why he doesn't do it. But I would be reminding Americans, if there was any unbiased press, I'd be reminding Americans exactly what was happening under Obama. Just play the highlight reel. Show them. And Biden is vice president. Come on. It's easy. You just remember what those people did. And don't forget it. They're the biggest criminals in America. Those people. So, I really, really appreciate what Dinesh is doing in this video. It was just incredible, nicely summarized. And here, let me just say that Canada is the culmination of all those effects. It's already enacted, and we're suffering the consequences of all those how would I say it, those corruption of those and rejection of those fundamental ideas, you could say, that Dinesh put forward. We are living that now. That the radical left is taking control of our country and push those out. And many people have been demonized, villainized. Christians have been villainized and so on, especially in education. And it's just incredible. It's incredible. They want to destroy the underlying foundation that built our country, and every point, every noble point, every fundamental, beautiful point that Dinesh put there, they obliterate them all. And what we're left with is essentially trying to indoctrinate more people in getting to the radical left, get more people out to protest, get Antifa up here, get Greta Thunberg to talk about things like Al Gore did years ago, and create a massive panic so that they can achieve what they wanted underneath, behind the scenes. And so God knows how much these people receive in money under the table to become the mouthpiece of what these saboteurs that want to destroy the country, that what they really want. And climate change is a pretense for them to do that, so I suppose that's what they want to achieve. But for me, I pray that the Americans will remember what Trump did. And it is great leadership. There's no question about it. Trump will always point that out because the press always tries to suppress any positive thing about him. So the only publicity he knows he's going to get is if he keeps repeating those in front of the biased media, and hope that enough people watching will hear it and understand. So this video is getting a little bit long, so I appreciate you watching. Please like or comment or subscribe if you like my content. And again, all credit to Dinesh D'Souza for the source material, because he is a great man too. And I'm sure that many of you know the hardship that he went through under Obama. He, as a citizen, suffered directly under Obama, and he'll never forget it as long as he lives. It's something he won't forget, ever. He himself claimed that he was somewhat radicalized by what Obama did to him after he released the film criticizing Obama, and when he went to Kenya to go see Obama's brother and prove what a hypocrite Obama was. But he himself has suffered because of government, and so he's not going to stop until he gets the message out how it should be. Because Dinesh probably remembers vividly how bad it was under Obama, and vividly and intimately knows what happened. He himself, well, he explains it in his films, but he also explains it here on YouTube when you see how he's motivated to keep releasing content to defend Trump. Not necessarily to defend Trump, but more to defend liberty and truth and peace and so on, and order. So all I can say is I'm very worried about this election. You should never underestimate the power of that fake news, as Trump put it, because they reach a lot of people, and it is detrimental for President Trump. But I'm hoping that the Americans will remember what the Democrats were like, the far left radicals. And even if you look at his running mate, Kamala Harris or something like that, I've seen her in a bunch of clips on YouTube, and I mean, she is as far left as it goes. It's really, really ridiculous. And she uses all the grand narrative for virtue signaling that Trudeau does to get ahead in her votes and get support. it's pathetic. It's the same fake nonsense that Joe Biden was trying to say about I don't believe in red states or blue states. It's like that dumb hypocritical answer that Democrats typically always use, that is like the reverse of what they really believe. And every time Joe opened his mouth during the debate, it's like I wanted to turn the volume off, because it's like I don't even want to hear what that snake has to say. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's more efficient just to look in the past and what he's done, because he has not a leg to stand on if you do that. It's not even a debate. So, and if you look at what's standing right now, it seems that the Burisma case is opening up nicely for Hunter Biden, because hopefully they'll find direct evidence that Joe Biden was taking payouts, and they can convict him. And wouldn't that be nice? Thank you for watching.